Ado and Akina Nakamori. Yes, once again, we are going to be doing a reaction to two versions of one song. An original by Akina Nakamori, a cover by Ado. And at the moment, we just got the opening frame, so all you can see is one of the videos starts with a black frame and the other starts with a bright white frame. So nothing very visually interesting going on here, but I swear we'll get to that point at the moment. Anyway, just to quickly explain how we got to this point. This all started back when I was actually doing a track-by-track review of Ado's cover album, where she was covering artists that she was inspired by. A lot of it was Vocaloid, because that's what she grew up on, but there were some artists as well there. You had like the likes of TK, Sheena Ringo, and of course Akina Nakamori. And as I mentioned at the time, despite being into Japanese music for most of my life and having been in Japan for over a decade, I had never come across Akina Nakamori. Just one of those things that happens when you've got a music industry that's so flooded with fantastic artists and so many coming out every single day. But yes, when I covered this particular version, this cover that Ado did here, it was the one song on Ado's cover album where I had to say, do you know what? The original vocalist is just as good. Because, you know, Ado is such a famous singer, such an influential singer, such a voice of our current generation, and has had such an impact on so many of the artists who followed, even though she's only been around for a few years. It's fair to say that you just kind of assume that if she does a cover album, she's going to elevate every single song she's on, because, you know, as great as those other artists are, you know, Ado. Vocals is her whole thing. But yeah, like I say, Akina Nakamori, I was like, I have to hear more of this artist. I was just intrigued. It's like, she's bringing every bit as much to this song as Ado is. And well, recently as a result, I then did a reaction focusing solely, where is it? I had to finish that Ado cover album first. But solely focusing on Akina Nakamori, looking at her song Tattoo and the version she did both in 1988 and 2024. Sort of self-covering herself, you know, several years later, several decades later. And once again, I was just really impressed by the fact that, yeah, it was this kind of old 80s style pop, but it was so cool the way that she delivered it. Brilliant vocals, and the fact that she still has such a fantastic performing style and ability to the very day. So, for me, very much impressed by like her performance, but in the comments below this video for Tattoo, someone very kindly commented and said to me, well, do you know there is another Ado cover of Akina Nakamori? Most notably from Akina Nakamori, well, a cover album of Akina Nakamori. So previously, I was looking at an Ado cover album where Ado was covering artists that she was inspired by, like Sheena Ringo. Now we're looking at a song from an album which is by multiple artists, all covering Akina Nakamori. Does that make sense? So the song that was apparently covered is one called 10 Commandments. It says 10 Commandments brackets 1984. Not really sure. It seems like that's part of the name of the song, because that little bracketed bit actually appears both on the Ado cover and on the original. Now, I don't know whether it's just saying because there's like a 1984 version of the song, or whether that's part of the name of the song, but fair enough. Anyway, what I'm going to be doing is I am going to be listening to, first of all, the Ado cover, then I'm going to hear the original, like I did last time, to get a perspective on what it originally sounded like. Now, for anyone who's asking the obvious question, Howard, why not listen to the original first? Just a little reminder, in case you haven't seen my videos before, the reason why I'm covering the Ado version first is because the Ado version, I never get like copyright blocks from Ado. Whereas the original, especially considering it's uploaded by Warner Music Japan, and I did a little check before this, apparently they are quite copyright heavy. This version might get blocked. So hopefully it won't. Hopefully you'll be able to see me do a reaction to both of them. But if for any reason my reaction suddenly skips when I get to the original, it's not my fault. So I want you to at least enjoy the first time I hear the song, as I'm a big songwriting person primarily, despite me doing a reaction to two people who are ostensibly performers first and foremost. So yeah, I want you to hear me get to enjoy the song reaction with me first of all. So we're going to start with the Ado version. But anyway, let's jump in with Ado's version, and then once we've heard what Ado did with it, we get to hear what the original sounded like. So here we go, 10 Commandments, 1984, the Akina Nakamori cover by Ado. Already getting those 80s feelings. The isometric music video. I love it! Even the production sounds properly old school. It's not like they tried to over-update what I originally imagined the original sound like.
かっこつけてるだけで何も一人きりじゃできない顔が好きだよね優しさ
Very low, breathy voice.
さの言い訳なのよ葉っぱかけてあげるさ肩つけてよ
Ado has such a recognizable voice. Even when she's singing totally differently. This definitely gives me like old school karaoke vibes. Like imagine this being a big karaoke song back in like the 80s and 90s.
顔をするたびにつけ上がるの悪い癖だわ優しいだけじゃもう物足りないのよ今の男の子みんな涙見せた
Interesting how much of the song is moving on the strings and the backing vocals. Guitar solo. Still, the vocals for the best part are very low and breathy. That register's very low. Feel the power as the notes lift. Added her little flower to the bottom there. It's a good solo. This is very interesting. Now, this definitely is evocative, as I think we're kind of finding with a lot of the Akina Nakamori stuff. It's very evocative of a kind of a phase in Japanese popular music. And what I really like about this is that it does have kind of like, it was interesting, I heard it referred to after doing that last Akina Nakamori reaction. I heard it referred to as city pop, and I'd never really thought of the connection, and then just kind of put it together. I don't, to be honest, frankly, listen to that much city pop, and it kind of put the connection together, and it made a bit more sense. But there is something about the city pop era where you've got a little bit of the, you've got a little bit of a kind of a jazzy vibe, a little bit of, you can feel kind of like the jazzy music of the earlier decades before, combined with sort of slightly synthetic elements. There's a little bit of the drums sounding very digital or very compressed. You have that, and then you have the strings, which are almost evocative of kind of like what you'd imagine to more be kind of like musicals or show tunes, and the way they sort of rise in a very dramatic and almost hyperbolic kind of way. But yeah, so you've got that sort of jazz singing, a little bit of the more electronic sort of synthetic production of the 80s, I could say sort of more dramatic, almost soundtrack-esque sounds of the backing. Those things are very much like the quintessential elements that I think are what you think of when you think of that era of music. And of course you put that all together and you get a style of music that, when combined, is pretty much what you would then associate with being the traditional karaoke music. This is the sort of music where you can imagine it. If you ever go to karaoke and you've got like a couple of older friends, this is the kind of song that they're going to put on. This is the kind of song they're going to put on because it's got that big melody. And you can really sort of put some big notes into it. And I feel that. So I feel like there's so many interesting styles and things converging in a song like this. But what is most interesting for me about Ado doing a song like this is because, of course, we talk a lot about Ado being influenced by like Vocaloid, and a lot of these. A big part of her cover album was Vocaloid songs. However, I don't know whether it's via her parents or something. She's done so many interviews and podcasts and radio shows. I'm sure this has come up. But it feels, I would suspect that she probably heard Vocaloid music herself, and that was the music of her generation that inspired her. But maybe through her parents or something, she may have heard a lot more music like this that maybe inspired her on the other side, if you will. So when I hear this, I can very much imagine why this kind of music would inspire her, because it's very much, again, it's that karaoke style of music. It's that style of music that makes you want to sing along. It's got those big rising notes. It's got very clearly defined melodies. And you can imagine it just being something that's fun to sing. It's interesting how in the verses, you get those very breathy notes, very breathy, almost as much of the tone as the breathing sound as it is the actual note. Before building up to the bigger notes in the kind of the chorus section. And again, this very much plays to the strengths of Ado. I mean, she is, whatever you think about her, as I say, she's got a very recognizable tone of voice. You can tell it's her straight away. But for whatever you think of her, like her style, her tone of voice, her adaptability as a singer is incredible. To be honest, that's one of the things I find most interesting about her. She's so effective over such a range of vocals, but also such a style. We've heard her doing things that are kind of bordering on rap, which is she's done very well, being able to sort of flip and change rhythms and use like rhythmic styles of delivery in a way that most so-called rappers couldn't even dream of doing. We've heard her do things which have been very poppy, things that have been very crazy, things that have been very calm, ballads. But this kind of having that jazzy edge, I think it's something where you can really hear her enjoying herself on this. So I can see why she covered it. Not knowing Akina Nakamori's entire catalogue of songs, I can't specifically say why she picked this one, but in isolation, I can understand why this song would be an attractive proposition for a talented and adaptable singer to approach and enjoy. So yeah, very much like that. But now we're going to go check out the original, assuming that we get to see it and assuming it doesn't get copyright blocked. Please, Warner Music Japan, please don't block it. Trying to promote music you have. This is from, this is a not monetized channel. This is a version from 1991, July 28th and 29th. So she had a performance. Yeah, so it's did the song come out in 1984? Because the performance is 1991. Let's just see if there's anything written below that tells us when the song's actually copyright from. Ironically, we're talking about copyright here. Okay, I can't really specifically make out anything directed at this song, but okay, it's probably a late 80s song either way. Let's give it a little go then. I'm kind of excited to hear this because once again, I feel like everything Ado can do, Akina Nakamori can do as well. So I just want to hear now how the original take sounds. Anyway, let's give it a go. Oh man, that's wild. That is wild that she. I was the thing. This is the same feeling I kind of had last time I heard the Ado Akina Nakamori thing. Is that like I just listened to the Ado version and I can't help it creeping in the back of my head. I was listening to the Ado version thinking, Ado is so good. It's like there's no way that Akina's kind of a version can really be any better. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's better, but it's at least as good. I mean, her control in the low notes is incredible. And why do I keep on coming back to the low notes? Because, of course, a lot of the time people will think of the big notes as the thing that shows your voice. But actually, in a way, those are the notes where your voice is in its most comfortable place. It's where you're kind of nearer to a normal singing range. You're projecting the airflow is moving through you. And as a result, you've got that consistent flow of air. You've got more air to form the actual notes with, so in a way that's the more impressive thing the actual skill, a lot of it with these songs, and seemingly a lot of Akina's songs especially, is in the low notes, and especially because they're these very short notes that she's doing. If you think about that, you've got to form a note that's like it's low. So, you know, the vocal cords are moving in a slower pattern, and you've got to do very short punches. So you haven't got like, usually with a low note, it's easy to do when you can hold, you can like allow it to shape itself. But when it's a short note, you haven't really, it's very hard to sort of, because it's a sort of physically very, the vocal cords have to move in a kind of a slow resonant pattern. It's hard to just sort of like do that in a low punch. It's hard to get those, but her ability to hit the note in those short, low, punchy notes is just incredible. So it's interesting because if anything, you could argue that the other version, she does it in a more breathy way, maybe to kind of cover for that. It's a stylistic thing. I don't think it's a lack of talent thing. It's just like, that seems to be the way that she approaches it, whereas Akina just goes forward and just straight does the punchy little low notes. Just very, very intuitively. It's a shame the microphone's a bit low, so you can't really hear it as clearly as I'd like to, but it's very clear that she's projecting fantastic vocal control. Yeah, absolutely love it. And as I said at the end, I would love if so I did at the advice of some people I did go back and I read a few articles and the whole wiki page, which is huge, about Akina Nakamori's life, just to get an idea, because some people told me she'd had quite a complicated story. Totally get it. I think she's had a very interesting, complicated, up and down life, and without going into details, I totally understand why she's probably not in her current situation going to be wanting to sort of like, she's going to want to have changed her style. She's going to want to be going for something different these days. But I will be honest, I would love to hear this kind of like 80s, 90s era Akina Nakamori covering an Ado song. I would love to hear that, because it would be great to hear the cover back, because I think if anyone could do it, it would be her. There's some like covers that I would love to hear, and I think some of the most interesting ones, I think the only couple of artists I can think of who I would genuinely really want to hear, I genuinely think could do a really interesting Ado cover, would be Akina Nakamori and probably Suzuhana Yuko from Wagaki Band. Those are the two. Those are the two who I would love to hear cover an Ado song, off the top of my head at least. But yeah, this was fantastic. And I will say as well, I often talk about how like so many things these days are better than they were in the past. I think people are very nostalgic for the past, but most of the time things these days are better. However, I will point out there are some cool things. Now, admittedly, this is not so much a problem in Japan, but I love the fact that, look at this scene. Not a single person is holding up a camera phone. Camera phones didn't exist. Ain't no camera phones here. No one's holding up a stupid tablet or something. Luckily, we don't get that in Japan, and hopefully we don't start. You occasionally get one or two people, but most people follow the rules pretty well, and if someone was holding up a camera phone, they'd get... So I really like the fact you're not seeing any of that nonsense in this as well. That makes me really like it. But yeah, definitely kind of like an old school performance, but just kind of full of quality, and yeah, she's just got like such a talent, this woman. So I really enjoyed it. I thought both of them were great. Hopefully you got to see them both. If you did, then a big thank you to Warner Music Japan for allowing this not to get copyright stripped. And if you didn't, I apologise. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I enjoyed this. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to check out in the comments. Remember, we got our Discord community link down below. And until I hopefully see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these. For now, ciao, ciao.